Welcome back to the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast. I'm Joe Noga, joined by Paul Hoynes in Houston, where the Guardians finally snapped their 10-game losing streak. They win 7-5 over the Astros, really one of the hotter teams in baseball since June 1st. And the Guardians come out and, except for really sort of that fifth inning where Tanner Bybee ran into problems, they were in control for most of that game.
Yeah, they really played well, Joe. Ramirez gives them the big hit that they needed with the 3-run homer in the fifth inning. Astros come back. Then the Guardians did what they haven't done in this losing streak, was respond. Brian Rocchio had the 2-run double, and they kept scoring, Joe. And that was, the 7 runs they scored was the most runs they hadn't scored. I think the most runs they'd scored in the losing streak was 6 in a game in a loss. So this was the most runs they scored since their last win. So, the offense did it, but the bullpen did it as well.
Yeah, and good to see Jose Ramirez sort of snap out of things. The Guardians hadn't won a game since he had gotten hit on the arm by Toronto, and comes out, has the big 3-run home run, has a double earlier in the game as well. What did you see out of Jose that is encouraging after a stretch where he might have been feeling the effects of that hit by pitch?
Yeah, he swung the bat much better last night, Joe. I really liked, the home run came off an 80-mile-an-hour slider, so it was kind of a hit me pitch. But in the previous at bat, the fourth inning, he had a double down the line by the third baseline. Had a nice swing on that and almost hit a second home run in the seventh. Just fell short of the Crawford boxes in left field. So it looks like Jose is feeling well, swinging well. Defensively, he played really a sharp game as well. And that looks like his arm, made some nice throws, nice picks. So, he was at the top of his game last night.
Yeah, it's named an all-star starter last week, and since then, has had the opportunity to get out there. Any indication from him, or any inkling as to whether or not he would want to compete in the home run derby again for a third time, if that's the case?
Yeah, and I have not asked him about that since he was named to the All-Star game, and he said he'd love the opportunity. So we'll have to see how that works. I think you got to get chosen, right? I think
Right, they invite you, but who wouldn't invite Jose Ramirez if he's willing to go? I think Ellie De La Cruz turned down an invitation, and Shohei Ohtani sort of said that he doesn't think he's going to compete, but they need to add some star power, and I've already sort of made my thoughts on the matter as far as whether or not I think Jose should compete, but whether or not they ask him could be a completely different thing.
Yeah, that definitely, because like you said, some of the big names have turned it down. So I think Jose would really like to do well in that home run competition. I think he'd like to win it. He kind of like is, kind of picking his spots. He wants to have a certain number of accomplishments, and it's interesting to see how he perked up when he was asked about the home run derby. So I think he'd love to be in there.
Yeah, it's another sort of prove him wrong scenario for Jose if he gets the opportunity. Another guy who hit a home run last night, David Fry, puts the insurance run on the board late in the game with a ball that was kind of goofy, unique to the park there at Houston, with the Crawford boxes that stick out. And I think everybody, I heard Tom Hamilton's call of the home run. He was a little confused as to whether or not the ball was out or it was, off the wall there in left field. But he managed to hit one high and just into the first row of those Crawford boxes. A good sign for David Fry is a guy that they definitely need to start coming around.
Yeah, he is, Fry's been struggling so much, Joe, since he was activated at the end of May. Some people think he may have come back too soon, but it was good to see him, get that ball out. And I think he said he hit it good, and he was, fortunate that it went into the kind of the last row of the Crawford boxes, or that side row of the Crawford boxes, because you lost the left fielder. He went to that triangle back there, and you didn't know if he caught it or not. And the crowd reacted weird too, there was a lot of Cleveland fans here, so I didn't know if they were reacting because the catch was made, or that the ball was out, and just before that there was a pitch clock violation called on the Houston pitcher, and I think Fry said that was the second one that's happened to him in the game last night, and he said, I kind of like that, he said, I hope that happens to every at bat because it puts you in a better account.
Yeah, it's almost like the softball leagues where you go up there with a 1-1 count and you're ready to hit. So very interesting from David Fry. Tanner Bybee, again, still hasn't won a game since what, May 22nd? I think it's been well over a month for Tanner Bybee. Just what's this guy got to do to get a win? He goes out there, he's given a 4-run lead, and then within an inning in the fifth, he gives it right back.
Yeah, within three batters, he loses the no hitter and the shutout, and then he watches, he watches Paredes hit up, kind of a high arching home run off the foul pole down the left field line to tie it up, and he was fit to be tied. Joe, he was not happy with himself. He took that long walk off the mound. You could have timed him with a sundial. He was kind of trying to gather himself, and you know how Bybee is. After the game, he was like short and sweet with his answers, and I don't know how sweet they were, but he takes it so hard, Joe. I think this guy's really, it's a young pitcher dealing with some frustration. You've got to learn how to internalize that, how to kind of just let it go and not let it affect the next pitch, the next batter. And I think he's still dealing with some of those problems because he was upset. There was a pitch in the inning. He was upset he didn't get the call. It was very demonstrative with it. And you can't let that. You can't let that. You shouldn't let that do that. At least for me.
Yeah,
Then you let the opposition know they're getting to you.
yeah, and controlling emotions is a big thing for Tanner Bybee. I think Stephen Vogt has said on a number of occasions, he pitches with that raw emotion, and they sort of want him to harness that in a good way. You take it from a guy who watched Corey Kluber pitch a lot of innings, and you never knew whether Corey Kluber was up by 10 or down by 10. He was always the same, and he was always gave you the same sort of vibe. And he was able to harness whatever he had and put it into his pitching, and he got the results. Tanner Bybee has had an excellent season. The numbers and the metrics, and he goes out there and shows that he's got the stuff to be a number one ace guy. It's just a matter of finding that formula to put it all together in a package every time to go out there, every start, and basically finish it off. It's like you get to two strikes and you just got to finish the batter off. It's that only in a game sense for him.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. And we've seen this guy throw a complete game and lose. We've seen him take a no-hitter into the fifth inning last night, not lose, but just kind of blow up, and he doesn't even make it through the fifth after that. So, this is a guy that's, I think, it takes time to learn how to pitch in the big leagues. And this is a guy that's, going through a little rough patch right now, but I think he's going to come out the other end just fine.
Yeah, and the one thing to keep an eye on is the home run numbers with him. I think it's 17 or 18 home runs
Yeah,
allowed this year.
17 now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot. Obviously, that's a number that you want to not have trending in that direction. But Tanner Bybee is pitching better than what the numbers are showing and the results are showing. And eventually, we know the game of baseball, everything sort of levels out. So he's going to go on a hot streak, or he's going to win a bunch of games that maybe things went sort of wonky, and he still found a way to win. That's coming. But right now, it's just sort of it's just a matter of sort of getting through and figuring out that formula.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is a guy that leads the rotation. He's the ace, and I think he'll get into a groove. He just needs to get a couple wins. He needs to get some positive results out of a start, and I think he'll be fine.
Speaking of figuring out the formula, Stephen Vogt might have altered the formula there last night in the ninth inning. Bo Naylor started the game, and after Sunday's unusual circumstances and the as Tom Hamilton on the radio described it, the wild pitch that really wasn't a wild pitch. If you think about it, he replaced Bo Naylor in the ninth inning for defensive purposes. He put Austin Hedges behind the plate. Austin Hedges caught Emmanuel Clase in the ninth for Clase's what 18th save, I believe, on the season.
19th
18th or
saver.
19th. It's one of those. It's been so long since
Yeah,
we've had.
19th save.
Usually, I have the Emmanuel Clase save number in the back of my brain and just keep adding to it. But it's been so long, I lost track. But yeah, just the move to put Hedges in a not so subtle way to say Bo Naylor needs to be better defensively.
Yeah, I think that was a clear message right there, Joe. And I think it was just kind of, they needed to win, and it was another close ball game, and I don't know, just a really an interesting move. We haven't seen a move like that from Vogt before. So, but obviously, they went with the veteran after Sunday's wild pitch got through Bo's legs, and let the tying run score against Detroit, and then just madness happened in the 10th inning. So yeah, just that was a really kind of managerial move right there.
Yeah, what message does that send not just to Bo Naylor who knows, hey, I'm not playing that ninth inning because of, I need to improve in a certain area. But what's that say to the veterans on the team, to the other players in the clubhouse when do they lose faith a little bit in Bo, or is that just a matter of looking at Vogt and saying why he really wants to get a win here?
Yeah, I think they needed a win, in the worst way, 10 straight. And I think it's, probably a message to Naylor that you've got to work a little harder. If you want to catch that ninth inning with Class A, if you want to close that game out, if you want to be a big league, a regular big league starting catcher. And, it was also giving Class A some confidence. He's your guy. And if he's going to be hesitant to throw a pitch in the dirt with a certain catcher back there, you've got to be able to correct that. You've got to be able to give him confidence to throw his best pitches in the best time of the game.
Yeah, you want Emmanuel Clase using his full arsenal, and if the full arsenal is a cutter in the dirt at some point, he has to be able to throw that. So we'll keep an eye on and monitor how long this change lasts. It probably lasts as far as I can see, probably until the end of the season. Austin Hedges gets into games defensively at the end when things are late and close. Before the game was announced, there was a move. John Kenzie Noel comes up from AAA, where he had been having some success since he had been sent down. Kyle Manzardo goes on the family medical emergency list. Tell us about why Kyle Manzardo is away from the team right now.
Yeah, Kyle's mother, Wendy, is undergoing heart transplant surgery this morning in Spokane, Washington. And the heart became, she's been on the donor waiting list since I believe probably around 2021. That's when she developed heart complications. And they finally, when the team got into Houston on Sunday, Manzardo received a call from his family that the donor, a heart had become available. He called Stephen Vogt late Sunday night, told him what the situation was, and Vogt told him, you got to get out of here. You got to go. You only have one mom, so get out of here. Go join your family. And then they made the move to call up John Kenzie.
As far as Vogt's approach to this, there was no question that if Kyle Manzardo needed to be with his family, that was what he was going to be able to do. Stephen Vogt strikes me as the kind of guy who understands what the importance of that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. He urged Manzardo to join his family. He goes, like I said, he told Kyle, "Hey, you only have one mom. What we do here is important, but family always comes first."
It's as for an explanation as to why Manzardo is not with the team. How long is that medical leave? Is there a certain time limit to it, or is it open ended and he can come back?
It goes from the minimum is 3 days. I think the maximum is 7 days. So we'll see how this goes. I would think I have no idea, but I would think it's going to be it'll lean more towards 7 days than.
Right, yeah, and we've seen other players on the roster this season have to take time. I believe Hunter Gaddis went to be with his family after the passing of his grandmother. That's the bereavement list that Major League
Right.
Baseball. And there are paternity lists. There are all sorts of other ways to get players some time to be with their families in big moments like that. So not an unusual thing. And Kyle Manzardo, obviously we wish the best for his family and for his mom and everybody to come through this as quickly as possible. But that does open up the avenue, the conversation at least. We have to check in with our daily Chase DeLauder update as to this is a left-handed bat that they were that they were going to be without for, an extended period of time. It seems like the perfect opportunity to bring up another left-handed bat in Chase DeLauder. Instead, we get John Kenzie Noel.
Yeah, he said, a vote said that, John Kenzie's probably going to play a little first base because Manzardo's not here. But yeah, Joe, it's a bit of a strange move. Just just kind of their way of saying we're gonna if if DeLauder gets called up, he's going to get called up on our terms. And John Kenzie kind of turned really was hot down there. He was hitting two runs. Was working with Junior Betances and uh, at Columbus, he said the biggest thing was he was getting playing time. He was getting playing time. He was, and he really wasn't disappointed when he got sent down. He said, "I'll be ready when you need me," and he kind of proved the point there. And now he did make an entrance as a 260-pound pinch runner, Joe, when Nolan Jones left the game in the eighth inning last night.
Well, that's even more confounding because now you lead me to my next point: is Nolan Jones, another left-handed hitting outfielder? He tweaks his ankle, has to leave the field, has to leave the game in the eighth inning last night. What do you think the chances are that maybe there's a move before today's game and Chase DeLauder could be up? Now we're at the point where Chris Antonetti said, now we just need an opportunity for Chase to come up. There have been multiple opportunities since Chris Antonetti said that, and still Chase DeLauder is a Columbus Clipper. It's confounding. It's confusing. I don't understand what has to happen in order to get this kid up and get him in a Guardians uniform. Lane Thomas, Kyle Manzardo, possibly now Nolan Jones, all out of the equation. The door has been flung open multiple times for Chase DeLauder. When are we going to see him?
Yeah, I do not know, Joe. That's $1 million question. And Antonetti is on this trip, at least the first leg of this trip. So who knows? Who knows? It could, what is brewing. I talked to Nolan Jones after the game. He said he was all right. He's kind of limping around, but it did not look like an IL situation. Vogt said he was fine.
Antonetti's going to be out there with a splint and a bandage, wrapping Nolan Jones up. You're staying here now. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know, Joe. They're going to do this when they're ready to do this, if
Yeah,
they do it at all.
well, and we heard from Stephen Vogt, over the weekend when he was asked, he did he mentioned Chase DeLauder, and he said when and if he gets that opportunity. I'm like, why are you adding the and if? I don't get it. He's going to get that opportunity. We have to see him.
Yeah, I would think so. I think if this season goes, the way it's going right now, this is the perfect time to bring up some young players and get a look at them and see, get them used to the big league experience, big league ballparks, big league pitching. This is what you use a bad season for.
Yeah, that's precisely the point. We also got to see Paul Sewald off the injured list. He's pitched now since returning. What's your assessment of the bullpen, what they were able to do last night, and Paul Sewald coming in after missing some significant time with the shoulder injury?
Yeah, that was his second appearance since being activated. Really excited about playing, being on the mound again, Joe. He said, that was a long 2.5 months that he was out with a really kind of a freaky kind of injury. He said the Guardians had never heard of it. Dr. Meister had never seen the injury that he had, but, he's healthy now. And he looked really good last night. And he's just another kind of, just another piece of that bullpen that when he's on like that, when he's pitching like that, it gets a lot deeper, and it gets, it starts reminding you of last year's pen when you can roll a guy like Sewald out there and he pitches, a quality inning like that.
Yeah, we're coming to the point, I think, pretty soon, actually, where there's going to be a lot of options there in the bullpen and a bit of a crowd. There might have to be some moves just to see, just to get a look at some of these options. Guys like Trevor Stephan, Eric Sabrowski is back now too. He was a big sort of missing ingredient with as another lefty coming out of there, and now he's back. So yeah, I think when this bullpen is at full strength, that can only help things. None of them can swing the bat though, so I guess that it's not going to help in that regard.
Joe, in one regards to that, Scott Atchison, a former Tribe pitcher, was at the park last night. He's a scout for the Yankees, and they might be looking at some of the Cleveland relievers.
Really, that is interesting. I recall seeing Atch in Houston the last two times I've been there. Is he around the Houston area? Is that where
He might
he's
live
a
here. Yeah, he
staffer?
might live here, and I think he's going to Chicago too to follow the team. So
Oh, that's
interesting.
interesting. Contending teams now starting to hunt the weaker teams in the pack, I guess, as it goes. Hoynesy, last night a little bit of a scare for you in the press box, not able to show off the Gold Glove abilities. What happened?
Joe, I made the classic mistake, man. I had my head down and was texting, and I wasn't watching the action on the field. A foul ball came whistling up there, got me right on the wrist, and it stung, Joe. I gotta admit
I
it.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good even when you catch them, we know from the past. How many times have you ever been hit in the press box?
That's the first time I've ever been hit. I caught a couple balls, just kind of bounces, real easy ones, but that one had some hair on it, and it. I'm just glad it didn't hit the laptop because I had my laptop open too, and then we wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah, and paying for the equipment is not a fun thing to have to do either. I just in what 43, 44 years of being in the press boxes, as much as you are you more likely to hang in there and try and catch one, or are you more likely to bail out and duck and dive?
No, I bail as soon as I see a ball coming toward me. I'd close the laptop and duck, and I made the rookie mistake. Had my head down, wasn't watching the game.
And nobody helped you out. I mean,
I didn't hear anything.
we're usually a pretty good community of supporters among ourselves in the press box there. Somebody says heads up, somebody says, hey, look out. And the press box there in Houston isn't all that bad. It's open, but it's gives you enough of an opportunity to maybe sort of duck out of the way. It's not like
I think I heard some people yelling, but I didn't think they were yelling at me.
oh, there you go. Always got to be on your toes, Hoynes. We're glad you're all right. We're glad you hung in there for this edition of the Cleveland Baseball Talk podcast, which has come to an end. We will check in again with you from Houston tomorrow.
All right, Joe.